Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 5 of The Mix,
where we have real talk
with real leaders
about real topics.
And today we have someone who's not only a welding mechanic, but also was called to preach just earlier this year. Please help us welcome Cruz Hyche. Hey, Cruz, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, buddy. How are you?
Doing real good, actually. It's great to have you on the podcast.
It's an honor. I really appreciate it.
Well, so, we had Austin and Cole last week, and that was a lot of fun. And so I thought, well, why don't we get another Desperation Church goat over here? So
yeah, you got the jacked up one. That's what you got.
The jacked one.
No, not the jagged one, the jacked up one.
Hey, we're all messed up, though.
That's right.
So do we want to start the episode off kind of with you just telling us a little bit about your family, if you don't mind?
Okay. So I grew up here, played football here. We actually played in 3 state championships while I was here, graduated in 2010. That's kind of my background to tie Tricardova, went here my whole life. My dad runs Mission 34. It's a non-profit, free hitting, free pitching lessons. And that's how we use it to share the Word of God to some people. And it has been awesome.
Yeah. About also a little bit just about like your wife and your kids.
My wife is Jamie. I have 3 kids: Liam, Houston, Hadley. They all go to school here. They all attend Desperation. I was recently called myself in January to be a pastor, so we do bounce around some now to preach. Liam is 12, Houston's 11, and Hadley is 7. So it's a house full and wide open all the time.
Oh yeah, 100%. So you do welding mechanicing, right?
I do.
So that kind of answers our first question. So how did you just get kind of into welding?
So my welding background started with my granddad. My granddad was an electrician welder. He worked for Drum and Coal for years. So it kind of went from there. Kind of wanted to do something like that. Started going to WCCT in the 10th grade. Started learning from Haley Williams up there at WCCT about welding, how to do it. And it all kind of revolved from there. When I graduated, I started my own business. I run it for around 3 years. Went to work for a power company, worked for them for 7, and then now I'm back working for myself again.
Nice.
So, and it's going on almost 4 years. So.
What does a typical day look like in your line of work?
For me right now, most of my work is involving with landfills. There are heavy equipment on the landfills. That's my main thing, is heavy equipment. And a lot of it is now more mechanical side. So it's pretty big machines, very large machines. My typical day is very nasty, not clean at all, as you can imagine. They're running in the trash and in the dirt and in the mud. And so it's typically a pretty nasty hot day. It's either hot or cold.
Yeah, I think I'd rather take cold.
I'm that type of guy, especially a welder.
Oh, man. We keep our house at a cool 68 degrees.
I'm the same.
And I love it. We just got our air back. It's wonderful.
You'll never hear a welder complain of air conditioner, I can tell you that.
Not at all. So is welding more about strength or precision?
I would say that your strength is probably practice. I would think that the strength of welding is your practice. You got to practice it a lot, and but you do have to also be precise, and not only precise with your hand, but also be precise in your knowledge. You got to be very knowledgeable about what you're welding on and what you're using to do it with.
Yeah.
What would you say the most challenging part of welding for you is?
For me, welding kind of comes naturally. It wasn't a steep learning curve for me. Some of as far as what to use and that kind of things behind it was, what rods to use and what wire to use. That kind of stuff was a learning curve. But as far as the natural hand movement and that kind of stuff, it wasn't hard for me to pick up on. But I would say probably for me, the heat. Taking it, if it's a 100-degree day and then you got a long sleeve shirt on with a hood on over your face,
right.
And you're sitting there welding for hours on end.
You're going to be sweating.
Yeah, the heat for me is the hardest thing to overcome.
Yeah. So as we all know, welding can be really dangerous if it's not done right. So how do you just kind of stay safe while on the job? I know you talked a little bit about the faceplate and the sleeves.
So they call it PPE, which is personal protection equipment. But you make sure you have your gloves, your long sleeve, your hood, but also know your environment. Know what you're welding around. If there's gases that can explode, if there's gas or anything that can catch on fire, or diesel fuel or hydraulic fluid, or you got to know your environment and what you're welding around and what you're welding on.
Have you ever had any close calls during welding?
Yes. I actually had, I've had some fires that's happened. One time I was actually working at the power company. They call them ash hoppers, and we were fighting what they call a clinker, which is a big molten lava rock that was hung, and we were trying to shoot it down from in there, and
A clanker.
yeah, clinker. That's what we call it.
Okay.
That's what we call it. But it's basically a hot rock made out of dusty powder that's been superheated.
Yeah.
We was fighting it through a hole about the size of a 5-gallon bucket, trying to get it down. And when it did come down, I heard the air change inside the boiler. And when it changed, I turned my back, and when I did to run, it fell and it blew out the door. And I actually was burnt from my belt line to the top of my head in 2nd-degree burns.
Gosh.
So, yeah, it's really, really rough. It's
Is that why
very
you wear the
dangerous.
hat?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. That between balding, you know.
Well,
Yeah.
I figured the balding might have been
The balding's
caused a
the
little
main
bit
thing, you
by
know.
the-
But think about shaving my head, though, you know.
Hey, my dad did it, and I'd say he looks pretty all right. So, you know.
I just got a lot of scars on mine, you know.
Yeah. Hey, scars are cool. So we're gonna save this one for last, okay, Jayden?
Okay.
'Cause that's gonna kind of segue into the second part. Are there any common misconceptions about people have just kind of about the trade of welding, or people who are welders?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, a lot of young men or women, because you have women in the field too, I think a lot of them see the conception of how much money you can make, and they think that they can go to a couple of classes, they can throw a welder on a truck and go. But that's not the case. They don't. A lot of people don't understand how rough of a job it is, how rough it is on your body. My hands, my back, my legs. I mean, I hurt all over every day. I have pretty bad neck problems. So, you know, there's a lot more to it when you get into it, and after you've done it for a long time, you're like, boy, might not have been the brightest thing to do for a living, you know.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of misconception about that.
Oh yeah. Do we have any on the back? Okay.
We have a few.
Yeah.
What kind of advice would you give to students like at WCCT like going into WCCT interesting in welding?
I would say that if you are thinking about doing welding, I would make sure that's something that you do want to do as a career. I mean, you can get it up there and you can learn it up there and you can do it just as a hobby later. I mean, you don't have to pursue that career. But I would say that, you know, if you do decide that's what you want to do, give it your all so you can be the best at your job, because that's what we're lacking in the field now, not just as a welder, but in many other
That's
areas.
just like everywhere, right?
Yeah, we're really lacking people that really care and take pride in what they do. You know, but if you get in there and you really don't love it, I would strongly suggest finding something you do love, because if you don't love it in that little shop that you're learning in, you will not love it in the field, because it is 10 times harder.
So I know we talked a little bit about WCCT, but how can someone try welding for the first time or find classes? I know the first time I ever welded, I did it with my grandfather.
Yeah.
We were working on the truck.
Yeah.
If y'all don't know, I have like a yellow 72 Chevrolet.
It's an awesome truck, by the way.
It's awesome. It just doesn't work. It's we might throw a picture on the screen, but we were working on putting my backup camera in. Because we were like, this is a big truck, and I don't want to hit anybody because it's a steel death trap, and if I hit someone, it's not going to be me that gets hurt. So, working on the brake light, and my grandfather was like, come here, boy. I'm going to show you how to do this. And he was like, I don't have a second helmet, so what we're going to do is we're going to slap this helmet on you, and I'm going to wear sunglasses. And I was like, Probably not the best idea, but okay. And so we got that done, and it was fun. It just wasn't something that I'd see like myself doing every day.
You know, the sparks and everything, you get burned on your arms constantly. I got scars all over me from being burned, you know. But yeah, I agree. Some people, it's not for everybody, you know. It is a hot environment, not only heat-wise, but also what you're working with is hot.
Yeah. So that kind of leads us into 12. So, and then we also kind of want to tie this into your calling that you were talking about earlier. Is like, what do you enjoy most about being a welder? Because I know you
probably getting to be around more people. I get to bounce around some, and I get to meet more people. And I really enjoy that part. I'm not stuck in one place. I'm outside most of the time and get to meet multiple people.
Yeah, and I know we were talking last week. If y'all don't know, Cruz also leads mine and our cameraman's Bible study on Tuesday nights, 6 p.m.
Yep.
Jasper Civic Center.
Would love to have
we have
you.
guys and girls classes, so you know, come on by. But you were telling us about like the enemy, like you were just getting this feeling like I should not be here for like almost a week straight working on this equipment.
Yep. So it's been about 2 weeks ago. Come in on a Monday, pulled up beside a machine. We just done a lot of work to it, a lot of repair to it, and it was being a pain, you know, getting it repaired. We got it repaired, went up there, broke down for a totally different issue that had nothing to do with what we just worked on. So I pulled up beside it, and I was already I was wore out, give out from the weekend. But I heard a voice in my head say, "You're not supposed to be here." And for about 2 days, I wrestled with that. And, you know, I was trying to depict God, you know, and I had to go to my pastor, Pastor Adam, and I asked him about it. And he was like, all right, well, how did it make you feel when you heard that? And I said, oh, it kind of made me feel anxious. Well, if you hear a voice or something and it makes you feel anxious, it's not of God. I'm going to say that. It's not of God. He's never going to make you feel anxious. You're going to feel love and peace when you hear from him. So it made me feel anxious, and I was like, that's a good point. You know, I didn't think about that. So kind of speed the story up to show that it wasn't God. You know, him saying, you're not supposed to be here, you know, and it really stirred me up. Come Wednesday, I actually got to sit down with a manager, which is it's very abnormal for us to get to talk one-on-one without people walking in and out. Got to sit down with him for about an hour, and we talked about nothing but Jesus. So, you know, getting to God showing me right there, hey, you are supposed to be here because there's people here that need me. So, you know, that just verified, hey, yeah, that was the enemy. You need to listen to me.
Yeah, so just backtracking a little bit to January. Was it January, was it 25 or was it 24?
25.
So just 9 months ago. Do you want to kind of tell us how you got that call?
So it started, we had a spiritual warfare conference that David Jett was having, but it fell on a Monday, which for me is usually a working day. I really wrestled with it Sunday, whether I was going or not. And I decided, I need to go work and I need to make the money. Because I had had a lot of trouble out of service trucks and, you know, breakdowns and all that. So I decided I'm going to go make the money. I'm not going to go. And my wife decided she was going to go. Well, that morning she woke up and it was still, I felt a heavy burden like I need to go, but I was trying to ignore it. Well, she texted me. I was already at work. She texted me. She said, I really feel like we both need to go. So I actually went and told him, hey, I'm leaving. I'm going. And I actually stopped by Jack's Western Wear. I think it's the name of the place up there in Coleman because it was in Coleman.
I think so.
So I stopped up there to get me a nicer shirt because I was already nasty that morning. So I stopped up there to get me a nicer shirt, and I went. And David was up there giving his message, and sitting right there in the chair, and it was like almost like time slowed down. You know, it slowed down, and it was like he was looking directly at me, and he was talking about calling on your life. And he said, some of you are going to be called. And then I heard, you know, a voice from God. It was no denying it was a voice from God. And he said, and it was just one word, preach. And when I heard it, it broke me. I cried. And then that was about 3/4 way through it. And I cried through the whole message. When I left, me and my wife had drove separate because I come from work. I cried all the way home because I knew my granddad was a pastor. You know, I have a great uncle that's a pastor. I know the calling. You know, I know that what it means. But that's how I got called. I was not expectant. Never sought out to be a pastor. Never thought I was, you know, enough to be a pastor. You're talking about a guy that struggled in school with reading and writing. You're talking about a guy that has dyslexia, and you get called to preach. And the main thing is studying the Word, reading the Word, being in front of people. All the things that I struggle with and all the weaknesses that I have, He is filling them, not me, because I can't.
I mean, like you did a great job at the revival last Sunday, and like I was like it just kind of wowed me because I mean like you've spoke incredibly at like all of our Bible studies, but like I never heard you like preach a full length message, and so dude, it blew me out of the water.
And I think people need to know the background and realize that just because someone's called, or just because you may get called, what you get called to a lot of times is your weaknesses, because God wants to show you that He's your strength and that He's going to give it to you. Yeah. And not to worry about your weaknesses.
Yeah. So do you just want to talk? Do we want to talk just a little bit about the revivals?
Sure. The first one we had down at the park, we ended up having 34 salvations, and 34 baptized. It was an amazing night. The second one we had right here in the auditorium, we ended up having, I think it was 26 salvations and baptisms. And then this last one, we ended up having 2. And, a lot of people were, I think I heard a guy say, well, man, I can't believe there wasn't more. But if for nothing else, it's for the one.
Yeah.
Because just like the Bible talks about, He'll leave the 99 to find the one. Mm-hmm. So if we do all this and we find one, it's worth it, And I think that we are looking at spreading the revivals. I think that we are talking about spreading the word, possibly going to different towns. We are talking about maybe possibly tent revivals popping up out in the open where people can hear the worship music, where they can come up and ask, hey, what's going on? What are y'all doing? And then that way we can reach more people in that aspect also.
So I know we always talk at Bible study about the crack, and like it's wait,
that's my saying. They get cracked up about it also.
But we're always talking about finding that that break where they're, and I talked about it this Tuesday at First Priority. Like we always look for that break, for someone to ask you what's different.
Yep.
And the way I put it Tuesday was I was like, I think I said, whether it be a calmness in the storm or whether it be like you remaining joyous through maybe the loss of a loved one, maybe a divorce, maybe your parents' divorce or something. I was like, it's someone's gonna see that and they're gonna wonder what's up.
Yep.
And eventually their curiosity will get the best of them, and they'll ask.
Yep.
And you get to tell them Jesus.
Yep. If you live your life, with Jesus first, people's going to see a difference in your life. They're going to see, there's something different about that guy. There's something different about that girl, and eventually they're going to want to know, especially when something chaotic hits their life and they've seen you handle something a way that they normally wouldn't see it handled, and they see you handle it in such a way with grace and mercy, and you get through it, and then they want to know, hey, how'd you handle, say, your granddad passing away, or whatever it may be, whatever the circumstances may be? How'd you handle that so well? And that's that crack that I tell them all the time on Tuesday nights. But you're always got to be looking for some way to spread the gospel.
Yeah. So, like, and you don't, like, even people you know that have went to Jesus, if they're not, like, I don't want to say fully living for him, but if they're not, like, if they're having trouble with something, like, I had a guy come up to me yesterday, and I'm not going to say his name for confidentiality purposes, but he walked up to me and he said, Logan, I know, and we always make the joke, me, Jeremy, Brian, and a couple of other people, like, I'm chronically single, but I give some pretty solid relationship advice. And so he walks up to me and he was like, Logan, bro, I need your relation. He was like, oh my gosh, that stutter was awful. Yeah. But he was like, I need some advice, man. And we just talked a little bit, and we talked about temptation. And if you don't know, part of my testimony, it was one of lust and temptation. Yeah. And so what I told him was, I was just like, hey, you and your girlfriend don't hang out alone. Mm-hmm. Because that's when the bad stuff happens. Yep. Like, you're not going to be as tempted to do that if you are with friends, if you're going on double dates, if you're going to eat dinner, go bowling. Bowling, underrated date, by the way. Because, like, if you suck at bowling, it's fun because you can laugh at how bad you are at bowling. And if you're great at bowling, it's kind of like it's a show off.
Yeah.
So,
you know, I really think that it is very important, you know, just like you did, to spread that, you know, to spread that gospel and to spread the knowledge, you know. And just because you haven't been there doesn't mean you don't know the information. Mm-hmm. Because if you stay in the Word, God gives you all the information you'll ever need, you know. So just because you haven't been somewhere somebody else has, you know about things that they don't.
Yeah. And that's another thing I was saying Tuesday is, like I wish I could tear those pages out of my book, the pages of lust, the pages of just the temptation and how long I was in some of the stuff that I was in. But those darker parts of my story are the parts that reach people the most. That's
exactly right. You know, the painful things of your life is your testimony. The good things in your life don't speak as loud as the bad things in your life. Once you give your life to Christ, and you truly believe, and you truly turn around and you start following Him, those painful things is what speak.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I think there's kind of a misconception of that. You know, there's a time when those things, you know, we think that, oh, we got to tuck those in a closet. We can't tell nobody. That's not true. It's not true at all.
So, just kind of going into another one, just another question before we get into our draft. Do you have, like, a favorite verse?
I would say, I have many, but I would say right now, Romans 10:9-10 is probably one of my favorites.
He who confesses with mouth and believes in heart that Jesus is Savior,
yes,
will be saved.
Yeah.
That's
probably where I'm at right now. There's a lot of things going on around my family right now, as far as people, you know, trying to make that decision of salvation, and you know, that's really hitting home right now, that verse, because I've shared it with so many people right now.
Yeah. So last question. Do you have any, like, cool or crazy God stories, whether that be like the playing card you shared with us Tuesday, or the message that you found in the trash, or just something that happened, like, with somebody, like somebody had a crazy story, or maybe.
So I can kind of tie two into one, with the card story you brought up, because on Tuesday nights I'm pretty open. I tell these guys basically everything that went on that past week, so they get to hear it all. But the card story he's talking about, I went to preach at Pleasantville Baptist in Parish. I got up, or
go Tornadoes.
Yeah.
My parents both went to Parish.
So got down there to preach and talked about they come up to sing, and when they come up to sing, there was 3 ladies that sang, but one of them's a little girl run up to her. Well, she had a deck of cards in her hand, and I'm talking about 13, 14, 15 cards in her hand. So as they went to walk off, she dropped one, and it landed on the floor. We were under a pavilion instead of being inside the church that day, they had it outside because it was one of the cooler mornings. And so she dropped the card on the floor, and I didn't think nothing of it. I wasn't going to make a deal when I got, introduced and come up and preach. I wasn't going to pick it up. I was going to wait till it was over. So I walk up there. I preach my message, and the message was missing the mark, which I preached at the revival. And at the end, I could see one guy, tears in his eyes. I could tell something was stirring in him. But there was another person that I couldn't see at all, and it was a lady. She was over 80 years old, and she'd been in church her whole life. And before I finished with that, I picked up the card at the altar call. Picked up that card, and I was just going to get it off the floor and set it on the podium. But when I picked it up, I noticed that the back of it said war, and the lady was singing the altar call. Well, as soon as she got done with the first call, the first song, they only usually sing one. So as soon as she got done with one, it just, I don't know, something was stirring about that card and it saying war on the back. But I was going to let it go. I wasn't going to listen to God, And I flipped the card over, just not thinking about it, but I just flipped it over as I laid it on the podium. Well, the number on the other side was 7.
7.
So if anybody that knows and reads the Bible and studies, that's one of God's numbers. He uses 7 in the Bible.
It's like 7,
a
12,
lot.
And
40.
Yeah.
40 is one of them too. But, he uses 7 a lot in the Bible. And I said, okay, that's it. I'm going to share it. So I got the card back. She finished her song. And I held it up and I said, this card was left up here, and I told the story about the little girl dropping it. And I said, this card on one side says war. And that's what we're in. We're in spiritual warfare. And it's happening all around you. And then I said, I wasn't going to share this, but when I went to flip it over, the number on the other side, and I flipped it over and showed them 7. And they, you could see a lot of people, it really caught their eye, and that they could see something physical, God moving in something physical. And I talked about it for just a minute about, how spiritual warfare is going on, and it is really heavy on our country right now, as we seen last Wednesday, So it's really, really heavy, and kind of tied it in with that. And then after, during the altar call, she sung one more song. The boy that I saw that had tears in his eyes came up, and he turned his life around and was saved. So then we got to pray with him. We got to pray with several others. And then after I closed, this is where the lady that was over 80 years old comes in. Been in church her whole life, but she was stuck in religion. She was stuck in a false base salvation of I can be nice enough or I can work enough, to get saved, which is false, And so she come up there and talked to me, and she was going to give me a hug, which is not uncommon, after you give a message, people like to come up and say, hey, good job, or, that was awesome message. Or she come up and give me a hug, and she didn't say anything at first, and I went to pull away, and she said, I'm unsure. And I was like, what? Like, what do you mean? And she said, I feel like God's calling me right now to be saved because I don't think I'm truly saved. And you're talking about a lady that's over 80 years old that had been to church her whole life. And so I spread the gospel with her and told her what it truly meant to be saved. And Hal Miller, the pastor there, he was right there with me, and we shared with her the gospel. And the lady that was over 80 years old, was saved right there on the spot, and she's getting baptized. So, no matter the age, you can change your life and turn it around. The thing is, you're not always promised to live to 80. But what tore me up the most about that, God allowed her to live past 80 years old to have the chance to truly be saved.
Yeah.
So that's kind of one of my amazing stories that's happened recently.
Oh yeah. And all right, so without further ado, let's get into our draft. This week's draft is books of the Bible. So me and Jayden will be on a team, and Cruz will be on a team, and y'all will vote in the comments who won the draft. All right, Cruz, you're our guest. You want to get us started?
Yeah. So, probably one of my favorite books right now is probably going to be Romans. I like Romans. I love Paul. I love his teachings. Me and Pastor Adam talked about this the other day. We really like the way the church used to be, the way the church is supposed to be, and we really feel like that we should get back to that.
I know that my first pick last week was Job, but this week it is also Job, because if you didn't know, the book of Job. And it's really for the same reason, just the sacrifice that is shown in that, and that Job is still like, God, you're good.
Yes.
Is very powerful.
Yes. No matter what happened in his life, and what Satan threw at him, he still give it to God, and that is also one of my favorites. So you're gonna steal mine now, I guess. So, I'm gonna tie Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John up for you.
Ooh.
The Gospels. I'm gonna take them all. I really love the Gospels because that is Jesus' time on earth. That is Jesus' teaching. I really writing my messages. I don't sit down and make. I don't write just messages. I've told you this before. I don't sit down and try to make a message up. I wait for the Holy Spirit to speak to me and give me a message. And a lot of times he'll start giving me one, and I'll be there writing for an hour and a half, 2 hours. So, but saying that, the Gospels, I love to read through the Gospels and become familiar with how Jesus taught and how bold he was in his teaching. And that way, it gives me confidence that when I get on a platform, I got to be bold, and I've got to preach the word and the truth. No matter who likes it, who hates me for it, they need to hear the truth. So I really like the Gospels.
We're going to let that slide because he's our guest, but just keep in mind he just did 4 in 1. Jayden, would you like to take our next pick?
He took 4 in 1. I'm having to think.
Yeah.
You can go.
That's 4
I was
points,
listening to what
right?
he was saying. I'm sorry.
Huh?
That's 4 points, right?
I don't think that's how that
Points?
works.
I mean, you can't
I think we
edit
just
this
vote.
out. This is 4 points.
I think we just vote. But I'm going to take a bit of a sleeper pick. I'm going to pick Ruth.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one too.
Because I really like her story, because in like the first, isn't it, I can't remember. Isn't it only like 5 chapters long?
Yes, it's very short.
Yeah. So in the first 2 chapters, it speaks on how Ruth's father had died and her brother had died as well. And her mother, I forgot the exact word that she told Ruth to call her, but it literally translated to rat. And so, like, she was so distraught that she felt as though, like, she was less than.
Yes.
And then Ruth was just like, you know what, I'm going to get to work. So what she does is she goes out into this field. She is like, hey, let me work here. And the people are like, sure, extra hands help. And so she's gathering the grain, and then she meets Boaz, who she doesn't know will be her future husband, but is her future husband. And he brings her, and he's like, give this lady some food and give her leftovers to take home to her family.
Yep.
And so basically the whole thing is, you heard me give the Bible study lesson on
good.
treasure fields. And so Ruth didn't know that she was going to meet Boaz when she got to work. What she did was she was like, God's calling me to do something. I'm going to get to work and I'm going to do it.
Yep.
And then she wound up meeting her future husband. She wound up being very wealthy. And she also had no idea that the savior of the world would come from her bloodline.
Yep. I think for me, my next pick is going to be Psalms.
That's a good one.
I love Psalms because a lot of people can go there and find comfort. They can find direction. Psalms is a great guide for if you're battling depression, anxiety, all the things of the world you can find right there. If you are in your feelings or you're battling something in life, Psalms is a great place to go, and it will teach you and show you where you're supposed to be in those times. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah. Jayden, you thought of yours yet?
I think I took another one of his. So I'm on his wavelength.
I'll say the first book.
Genesis?
Genesis.
It's a good one. like story of Adam and Eve is great. Story of creation, Noah's Ark,
First Adam. The first Adam.
and Abram as well. Abram and Sarah. So I think that leads to you for your fourth pick, I think.
How many have we done?
Wait, no, you've only done 2 picks.
I've done more than that.
He's
I'm
done
actually leading
4,
you.
yeah.
You said,
I've done 6.
okay.
Okay, so he's done.
I can do another one. That's no problem. I would say, trying to pick a good one. Let's go with Acts.
That's a good one.
Another one of Paul's teachings. Acts is a very, very good one. And I think sometimes as some churches, we get away from the teachings of Romans and Acts and the teachings of Paul of how we're supposed to be, like I said earlier, and how we're supposed to approach people, how we're supposed to lead people to Christ,
Yeah.
And I think those books are important, very important and very crucial, in what we're supposed to be doing in our calling for Jesus. And your calling doesn't have to be a pastor, you don't, just like Dad said at the revival, you can be an Andrew. An Andrew, not a lot of people know about an Andrew, but an Andrew is somebody that can sit back. They don't have to be on a stage, and they share the Word of God with more people than probably most pastors are, blessed to share with. So, I think it's very important that we keep that in mind,
Yeah, so I think what I'm going to do is there is a fly on this mic. Hold on. Okay.
I've been seeing it.
So I think what we're going to take is we're going to take 1st and 2nd Corinthians.
Ooh, there's another one of my favorites.
Because
Killing me.
it really, I'm taking it for 1 Corinthians 13. Love is.
Yep.
Love is patient, love is kind, love does not envy, does not wish down upon another. And that's really what I take as kind of a guide, because I know that I can be a little harsh towards people sometimes. And it's hard to really love people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just it really is a struggle. And when I look at those verses, I'm like, this is what I have to be.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is exactly how I need to love, and this is exactly how I want to be loved.
Yeah, that's very good. Very good. You're going to make me pull it out, ain't you?
Last picks.
You're going to make me pull it out.
What are you pulling
Please.
Galatians.
out?
I'm going to go with Galatians 5 in particular, verse 23, 24. Fruits of the Spirit. And I think that there is one fruit in particular that this day and time, as young people,
Self-control.
that we're missing, and that is self-control. We don't control ourselves at all. Whatever feels good is where we gravitate.
I mean,
And whatever feels good is not always right.
Exactly.
And most of the time it's not. Most of the time, if it feels good from the world, it's not right in God's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the honest truth about it, And I think that is a very good place where you can learn, as I preach the revival, you can learn that whether or not you're in line with Jesus, whether or not you're in line with God's will. If those spirits of the fruit are not coming out of your life and not being produced out of your life, then you can see that I'm not where I need to be.
Exactly.
I'm not in my walk. But when you get in your walk and those things start coming out of your life, even the more important thing about it is that everyone around you start seeing those fruits. And they're like, all right, something's different about them. What is it? And that's where we talked about earlier, the crack,
Mm-hmm.
And then that gives you that opportunity to spread the word.
All right, Jayden, this is our last pick. Would you like?
You got it.
Okay, so
You picked first and... Okay.
I'm thinking, do I want to do Deuteronomy or do I want to do Exodus?
I thought you were going to go to Numbers.
I might have done Proverbs.
Wait. Did you take Job?
Yeah, I took Job.
He did.
All right, let's go Proverbs. There's just a lot of really solid stuff in there, and I'm someone who likes metaphors and stuff, and then I also like poems, so Proverbs really kind of hits. Same thing with Psalms, which is why I was a little sad when he took Psalms.
Yeah.
But it's just a lot of good. It's a lot of good stuff. And with that, we have concluded our draft. Make sure y'all vote in the comments. And Cruz, I want to thank you for coming on.
Man, I appreciate it. It is an absolute honor.
And stay tuned for Dylan Witt's episode next time. See y'all later.